I feel like there's so many games nowadays that just look like Unreal 5 tech demos. And like, because being able to generate something like this is really easy, it's like a both a positive and a good and a negative thing. Because like you have developers that could never have made a video game that are now able to make a video game. And you also have developers who should never make a video game who now could make a video game. And that's the thing. This is where we're at. Easily scammed into buying bad games. Yeah, because if you think about it, right? You look at the actual graphics here. The graphics here are great. They're incredible. However, is this really why I would play a video game? Like, why would I play a video game for this? Like, this is all like Unreal 5 tech demo stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I think this is in the shouldn't category. I don't think anything about this looks good at all. It's super fucking repetitive. Every single boss is the exact same. The combat looks cookie cutter, and I'll probably play it. I mean, this is the same thing I say with every one of these games, is like, I'll always try the game out just to see what it's like. But my expectations for this game are just so incredibly low that I can't even explain.
Look, I like Asmongold, and I agree maybe 90% of his takes, but this take with the Vindictus Defying Fate was a terrible one, and here is why. It would have taken a total of 10 seconds, literally 10 seconds, to just look up the game. It's clearly not an asset flip, that it's based off the original first game that came out almost 14 years ago, which has a lot of rich content and is known to have like one of the best, I'm still talking the best combat system out of any MMORPGs out there, and it still holds up till this day. Ironically, the first game is actually not built on Unity or Unreal Engine. No, it's actually built on Source Engine of all engine. I know, Source Engine. The engine allows this seamless integration and complex character animation, dynamic environment, and physics-based interaction. That being said, the game is in a very early development, and the main reason the game is coming out this early is so people could try out the pre-alpha demo and give feedback and maybe even help improve the game in the future. I mean, the fact they have the balls to give us a pre-alpha test to try out the combat system means they're confident about the game's combat and that it still holds up till this day, and it's coming out actually very soon. So the playtest will start at March 14 till March 18, and during this playtest you have access to two classes, which is Fiona, which is a sword and shield based class that's more about defensive and parrying, while the second class is Lan, which is this super fast paced class that uses two swords, and it's all about hitting fast and mobility. Basically, if you ever wanted like a Dark Souls-like MMORPG, this is probably it. This is like the closest thing you'll ever get to a quote-unquote Dark Souls-like MMORPG. You have things like stamina management, all attacks having some form of impact when getting hit or hitting things. Hell, the game even had this potion system where depending if you were running and drinking or just standing still, it'd heal you more if you were standing still than if you were just running and drinking. Of course, the bosses had telegraph attacks, so you couldn't just face tag all the hits, like every hit mattered. Hell, your armor would even break if you got hit too many times, and it actually physically show your armor getting broken and shit like that. Of course, since the game is reaction based, you could fight bosses and do a hitless run, since the game is so physically action based and reaction based. So you can parry and block every single incoming attack if you're good enough. Now, the game also had ton of destructible environment that you can interact with. For example, you could break a pillar and then use that said broken pillar as a weapon and beat the living shit out of the enemies. And the cool thing is, if you kill an enemy, they'll turn into a stone, so you could pick up that enemy and beat the shit out of the other enemies with that said stone. Like, it was super awesome, man. And I have not seen any other games that makes a system like that. It's not just the environment you could grab and interact with, but also the enemy itself. For example, you could grab a mob, and depending on if you're near a wall, a cliff, or anything, you do like a Yakuza style takedown on the enemy. Since the game is being over 14 years old to this point, you have ton of different type of playable classes, 24 of them to be exact, and none of them having a secondary weapon that you can use on that set class. Naturally, since this game has over 24 classes, one of them is of course gonna be a greatsword user. Now, if you're a fan of Berserk, you're gonna love this upcoming class that I'm gonna showcase to you. Now, this character is called Herc. Short description of him would be like is that he fights in the front line, dealing heavy massive damage in a relentless assault, while also receiving damage as well. His sheer willpower supports him both offensive and defensive prowess. Now, this class is both really satisfying to play as, but also at the same time being very punishing if you screw up too many times. While normally most classes would have to deal with the stamina system and stamina management, this class is a whole completely different beast. You're able to perform attacks that normally cost stamina and cost of your own HP instead, meaning you can keep on attacking as much as possible in cost of your HP even if your stamina is gone. You normally have block or parry on other classes. Herc is a bit different. He does have block if you perform like a heavy attack at the right time, but you also have a charge blockade attack which gives you impenetrable status buff. Well, you'll receive less damage and you won't be affected by attacks. Also get to use this revenge ability where after using the impenetrable to withstand an attack, you gain multiple status bonus and you get a small portion of your HP back. And that's just one example of many other cool movesets that Herc has. And that being said, if the class is too complex for you, he also has a secondary weapon that you can use, where he uses both a shotgun and a machete. The class completely changes playstyle, where you'll focus on more of a mid-range combat, where you'll hit the enemy with a machete to bleed them, and then use your shotgun to perform this heavy hitting damage, while also doing these tactical reload to get this special shotgun shell that even deals more damage, and so on. Now, that being said, you might think of, holy shit, this game sounds super fun, super badass. How come no one's talking about it? How come I haven't heard about it? Well, there's a reason why. It's made by Nexon, and here comes the bad. Nexon do sometimes release a really good banger type of games. They are known to simultaneously ruin the game by adding monetization and and I was talking heavily microtransaction into their game. Basically, think of any Korean microtransaction you can think of, Vindictus probably has it. One of the most ugly offender being the fatigue system. Oh boy, the fatigue system. Basically, you'll start off with 300 fatigue, and each time you do a mission or a raid, it goes down. And once it goes down to 0, you can kiss your XP, your loot, goodbye. Apparently the main reason it was added is so people wouldn't play too much or to combat bots, but we all know the real reason why it was added, because of course they added fatigue potion that bypasses it, and of course it costs microtransaction to get it. Sometimes they give you it for free, but most of the time you're gonna have to, pull out the good old credit card in order to play more, unless you want to play on your alts, that is. You do of course get like your fatigue back when you're offline and stuff like that, but overall it's still annoying and unnecessary, and hopefully this upcoming game does not have it. You're also kind of limited on doing certain dungeon, bosses and raids, where you can only do it like once per character. Of course you can buy VIP and departure license to do it more, but of course they all cost microtransactions. So this alone would like postpone of you getting your gear and shit like that, and you will literally have to wait days in order to get that one specific drop if you're lucky, and just like post halt the game to a halt, and it's not much you can do. Literally the best way to make money, it's not doing end game content, but literally just leveling your alts to 100 over and over and over again. Just that's literally the fastest way to quote unquote earn gold in this game, unless the other way around. The game is thankfully nice enough to give you free gear and such all the way to level 105. After that, you're gonna have to rely on the typical limited grind. And ironically, that's usually when I stop playing the game. I have it more fun playing the game only to level 100 to 105 and stop playing the game till they release a new character. Cause it's ironically more fun leveling your character, doing all the bosses and stuff like that, and the journey to 105 than actually doing the end game content and having to wait through grind and like days after days just so you can get like maybe one equipment and maybe, just maybe, enchanted enough to increase its level. So overall, Vindictus Defying Fate has potential to be this amazing game if Nexon is willing to listen to their feedback and hopefully don't get too greedy. Still recommend anyone to try this game out because the combat system alone is worth experiencing it. It still has one of the best combat system and boss fight out of any other MMORPGs out there. So I recommend just playing the game out to level 100 to 105 just to experience most of the boss fights and so on in this game. It is simply amazing. Overall, I hope you see this video, Asmin, and do decide to give both the demo and the first game a try. Overall, I also do other contests like first impression and eventually cinematic first impression, which will be really unique from any other videos out there. So keep an eye out for that one. Anyways, I'll see you guys later.